playing the viola. It's young musicians learning their craft. It's about family. It's about connection. It's about pride. It's about all these things. In America, it's about looking like an idiot. You know, I mean, this woman's telling you she's creating a social media site because of those people control the algorithms and decide what it is you see. Now, the more you interact with it, the more you're going to see things like that. But that's one of the reasons why they're pissed at TikTok, is because, like, if you travel the world, the algorithms are different. That probably is a little bit of an issue that needs to be looked at, because when you start saying to people there's a reason why it is this way, and it's because they're trying to lap America, and like it's not necessarily the craziest thought process. It's really not. And I don't want to see anything go away. You guys know how I feel about most things. I want personal responsibility brought back into things. We should be able to set these things down as I turn my phone over, walk away from them, and do more things with one another. But the problem is that a man walking with nobody behind him isn't a leader. It's a man taking a walk. Meaning you can't be the only one. So how do we start? I don't think we start socializing again by getting people another social media. I think we're gonna have to start doing more things outside. Most therapists will tell you, you know a great way to reduce your anxiety? Walk quietly in the woods. Walk quietly in nature. Go to the ocean. It's tough to do if you live in Ohio. But there's plenty of walking trails here. There's plenty of bike trails here. If you see a family riding their bike down the street at night after dinner, you're like, look at the Flanders outside. What are you gonna start preaching to us now, nerd? While we're inside shoving our face full of food that is killing us, watching the episode of the show we watched yesterday. I mean, it's nuts. We put junk into our bodies, we put junk into our eyeballs, and then run around telling everybody how everybody else is destroying our lives. It is the craziest thing I have ever seen in my entire life. I have never been more happy to grow up in the generation I did, because I kind of got a little bit of everything. I was come home when the street lights are on. Go out, ride your bike all day, have fun, do whatever you're doing. Still had the family connection. Then I saw the birth of the internet. I saw the benefits early. Then I watched it destroy my favorite industry ever, known as the music industry, and it absolutely destroyed it. It's destroying visual entertainment now, and now it's destroying our day and day lives. So I'm not sure no space is the answer. If you're looking for community, you're going to have to join one or build. All right, here you go. I saw a game I want to learn. It's called Carom. You play it on a board, and there's a couple of discs, and you're trying to like make these, you know, you have a large disc, and you're trying to get the small ones into like the side pockets. It's like billiards with like discs, essentially. It looks awesome. If there was a Carom club here in Canton, and I could learn that game and be in, I would join one of those tonight. But I've only seen those videos online. I didn't know that was a thing. So that's a benefit. It can get you interested in doing things, but once you have that interest, you got to go out and find it and then get off that phone. If you're looking for a different life, a different life isn't going to just show up on that screen for you. You're going to have to go out and create it for yourself. Welcome back to the Sam Story Show. I'll rock the bank with you at 9, pass out that first $1,000 keyword. We were talking about the social media site that called It's the same as all the others. I don't really understand it. It just feels like this young woman is trying to straddle both lines of the fence here. Like, oh yeah, we got to turn back the digital clock, so here's a new digital clock. Like, that seems kind of crazy. And there's always so much debate on which generation had it better or this and that. I feel like everybody who ages a little bit, you start to feel like life was simpler when you were younger, and life was a little simpler. You were also younger with less responsibility. I think that's a huge part of that. But somebody sent me this because, you know, the younger generation always talks about how easy boomers had it, right? So apparently this is a list of ways boomers had it worse. Communication constraints. They say they didn't have the luxury of a long distance carrier. So many, what the hell is a long distance carrier? Telephone calls can be expensive. Most of the calls you were making were not. This lack of of instantaneous made maintaining relationships across distances tougher for boomers. Yeah, but it was better. I've used the Seinfeld example forever. Elaine makes a call about a woman whose dad is in the hospital on the street on a cell phone. And Jerry and George are both like, faux pas! Significant fluctuations, including, hey, look, I reset and the oil crisis of the 1970s. You know, all this stuff that Zennials are dealing with new and boomers sold out their future from underneath them. Yeah, it turns out they were dealing with it too. Job security was a persistent concern, with industries undergoing substantial changes and layoffs being very common. The apps of the gig economy and rituals and social expectations. Boomers grew up in an area where societal norms and gender roles were more rigid and defined. Women, in particular, faced considerable barriers in the workforce and were often expected to prioritize homemaking over professional ambitions. That's always a tough one, man, because I want people to work if that's what you choose. I do believe families would be better off if someone stayed home. I don't think it has to be the woman. I think if you ask children what they would rather have, mom or dad stay home, I bet they're going to tell you mother. And I think kids should maybe be the ones making said decision. I feel like I had really solid parents because, well, I did. I think I don't think we're ever going to see a working household, not single parent. Some of you are working and your spouse is staying home. I don't think that's going to be the norm anytime soon again because of how expensive the world is. I'm not so sure that was you having things worse. I think that was like, no, somebody could stay home and that part wasn't so bad. You also had less health and wellness knowledge back in the day. They navigated their own formative years in adulthood with limited knowledge about health, wellness, and the importance of mental health. Well, we just denied that. Awareness and understanding of conditions like depression, anxiety, and the benefits of a balanced diet. Yeah, can we be honest about this, though? That the over-examination of depression and anxiety, convincing everybody that you've been turning a blind eye to your anxiety and your depression, and secretly you have a ton of it, and it's overcoming you, and you didn't even realize it because of how much you're smiling. Like, I mean, it's with the over-examination has convinced everybody that they have it. I'm not sure that's the reality. Like I've said about what people say, I have wanderlust. Wanting to go home from work early isn't that's not the same thing as that. I worry about that. Oh, by the way, your environmental and safety regulations are so much better today. The boomers had that way worse, they say. Education and career flexibility, way better today than the boomers had it, they say. Educational and career paths for boomers were often linear and limited. This is true. The concept of career switching or taking gap years was less accepted. You mean not accepted? That's what you mean. Most people stayed or had to stay with their initial choice, regardless of their job satisfaction or changing interests. Nobody cared. Well, that's not necessarily true. Part of a solid business back in I think late 60s, early 70s was employee happiness. It was at least on the chart. I don't think it was the number one thing. It's not the number one thing now either. Companies just lie about it to get you to apply. While tech advances have significantly improved the quality of life, they say here, I'm not sure I buy that. Boomers had to adapt to the changes in life, often facing steep learning curves from basic computer skills to navigating the internet and digital devices. The transition has been challenging for many. The ongoing process of adaptation has been tougher for boomers. Well, that's always true. My dad didn't know how to set the time on the VCR. You know what I mean? Like that was a thing. Ultimately, some things were harder, but you had each other. You had community. When I was growing up, my grandmother knew everybody on her street, knew all their names. Didn't like everybody, but knew all their names. I know for sure, as a matter of fact, there's a woman who lives in town here. Her name is Julie, and her grandparents lived down the street from my grandparents in Maple Heights. And they knew one another, and they were friends, and they played cards on Friday night. And that was like a thing. That was like a thing. You knew everybody. My parents knew once we moved out of the neighborhood where some bad things had happened to me. Once we moved into Aurora, my parents could drive up and down, not only my street, a street over either direction, left or right, and could tell you everybody's name up and down that street. That's gone. That's over. I've been living in my house 7 months. I'm pretty sure the guy that lives right next door to me, his name is John. Don't know his wife's name. The people who live on the other side of me, no clue. I haven't even seen the faces of the people who live across the street from me. That's crazy. When I was growing up, everybody was on their front porch, hanging out, waving to one another. Used to say hello to people. Bye, John. Have a good day at work. Now if somebody says, bye, John, have a good day at work, you're like, honey, we got to move. Like, call the cops. These idiots think they're allowed to talk to us. We got to go. Like, this is, I mean, it's getting kind of crazy. Everybody ran to the corner of their bedroom to hide in that corner and then turn around and said, what happened to all the great stuff? It's like, we did it to ourselves. Get outside a little bit. It's not going to kill you. It's why, honestly, it's why I came back to golf. I played a lot when I was a kid. Much better. But I was a little bit of a couch potato. And I got kind of sick of it. So I was like, man, I need to get outside. I need to do some things. You know, I got a guy here telling me, he's like, you know, they got a cabin in West Virginia. There's no cell service once you get down there. He's like, so they'll take photos while they're there. He's like, but we don't post them online. We don't until we get home and do all that kind of stuff. And I said to him, I was like, those are the times you're going to remember. When you were laughing with your friends, having fun, not caring what the latest update is, not caring what the draft pick was, not caring about what's social, what's viral, not caring. That's what you're going to think about. Nobody, I promise you this, absolutely zero people will be on their deathbed looking back and go, dude, remember that one night when we were scrolling on Instagram and we saw that lady dump that bucket of ice water on her head, man? Rock the Bank with me at 9. Also, check out that new Motley Crue song, Dog of War. We'll give you that again at 9. We've already this morning talked about some differences amongst the generations, and I have here yet another. It's Friday. This is when a lot of people may go out, look to maybe meet somebody, or maybe you already have a date planned. And apparently, dry dating on the rise. Nearly 2 in 3 millennials and Gen Zers prefer alcohol-free dates. Now, I'm wondering if this is not more and more people are just going sober overall. I was asked the other night via phone call about hosting an event, and I said, yes, I would happily do that. And before I got off the phone with the organizer of said event, they said, are you alcohol friendly? And I said, what does that mean? They're like, do you drink? And I said, well, yes, but I probably won't a whole lot that night. That's a school night, and I got to work in the morning. And oh, well, we ask now because, you know, we will give you a bar tab and all of that, but we're not going to do that if you're in recovery or all. I was like, oh, God, I wouldn't have even thought about it. But again, yeah, nearly 2 in 3 millennials and Gen Zers prefer alcohol-free dates. They did a survey, again, here, and when it comes to dating and alcohol, 23% of young adults said that they have felt pressure to drink alcohol on a date, even if they didn't want to. Now, again, this is where my problem with surveys is always this. Who supplied the pressure? Did somebody say to you, come on, let's just get a drink? Or did you feel pressure to have a drink because somebody else was having one? Because if you're ordering a drink because you feel like the other person has one and you don't want them to feel messed up because they have one and you don't, the person with the drink doesn't care. I don't think as much. Some people may make a joke about like, gee, am I an alcoholic because I'm having this and you're not? They may be telling on themselves a little bit. I don't think most people are going to be all that worried about it. Even if they didn't want to. Again, that part, well, again, that's where pressure comes down. If you wanted to have the drink, then you wouldn't be feeling the pressure. That's a dumb way to say that. Let me see here. 2 in 3, 65% said that they would prefer a dry date over a date involving alcohol. I am surprised here a little bit. I don't think it's bad necessarily, but I'm a little surprised. Again, I push back on the I have anxiety because most people are just phoning that phrase in so they can, do whatever the hell it is they want or make an excuse about why they didn't do something else. And we hear time and time again about how people are losing the ability to talk to one another. They're nervous. There's all this. Alcohol will definitely put you in a state of, all right, yeah, I'll tell you that. All right, I'll open up a little bit. I'll relax. It's a relaxant. And so for a generation full of people like, I can't go outside. I mean, for a generation like that, it's like, dude, let me tell you, 2 IPAs might just smooth your loser ass out a little bit, right? Like, maybe just try that, and you might enjoy yourself a little bit. Doesn't mean you got to get blacked out drunk. There's a difference in those two things for sure. 54% have said they have dry dated. Well, I have dry dated in my life. I've gone out on dates with women who were in recovery and we did not drink while having dinner. That wasn't part of that. I drink less now than I ever have in my life, but that's a lot about what time I wake up for work. I had a couple of beers at the draft last night, As a matter of fact, 2 beers at that draft last night. I didn't get drunk, but I was like, we're social. Everybody's having a couple of drinks. I'll have a couple of beers and we'll smooth this out. 81% said that they have already been on a date this year where neither person drank. The top reason for not drinking alcohol on dates included health reasons. I'm not buying that. I think you're lying. I think I know for sure if you go out on a date and you're paying for that date, once a bottle of wine is on the table, you were paying a lot more for that date. I think economics are playing a role in this. Alcohol is absolutely expensive to drink outside of the home versus in your home. It is that much more expensive for sure. I've made this argument about weed versus alcohol my entire life. If I spend $200 on weed, I'll have it a month. If you could spend $200 in a bar tonight, it's a completely different thing. 73% of millennials and Gen Z said that they're saving money while skipping the alcohol while dating. The average person saving about $88 per month on that. 63% of young adults say that they are more likely to go on a dry date in 2024 than they were last year. That's about the economy for sure. I don't know why, though. The economy's doing great, right? That's what a lot of the news reports seem to be, kicking ass. So I don't know what everybody's trying to save money for. The economy's going awesome. More than 4 in 5 young adults say that they have gone on dry dates in 2024. Boredom's going to set in, right? Like, I don't understand. Well, I guess this could work because most of the studies I've done with you about young people dating is they don't want to go to dinner anymore. It's too long, they say. Especially like first, second date, too long. I don't know if I want to be trapped in there with you. It's like, well, you're not trapped. If you meet at the restaurant, you're not trapped. I'm sorry, this isn't working out. I'm going to go home. I'm sorry, I'm not feeling great. I'm going to head out of here. Back in the day, we would have somebody call us and pretend, oh my God, there's an emergency. And then you knew, oh my God, I'm ugly, or my personality kind of sucks. And you hightailed it out of there. You could do that. But I mean, if you're having these dates at coffee shops, and that's where a lot of people are doing them now, then of course you're not drinking a bunch of alcohol. They say dry dating is a healthier approach to forming romantic relationships. This may be because 68% of their connection with the date was stronger when the alcohol wasn't involved. It would be hard to push back against that a whole lot, I suppose. But we did just run this data point down for you the other day, that this generation is the least sexually active generation in the history of people. They talk about their sex constantly. They're not having any of it. Those two things are related. I will bet my life on it. Those things are related. And also, one of the reasons why you're not having as much sex is because you're not drinking as much. Booze will kind of make you do that thing that you were like, I'm 65% sure I kind of want to do this. But it's like, all right, throw a little caution to the wind. Let's have some sex. Now, that does not mean people are taking blacked out people, throwing them in the backseat of their car and having sex with them. That's happened, I'm sure, and that's horrific and should not be the thing. There's a difference between that and, what is there, about 6 glasses of wine probably in a bottle? You had 3, I had 3. Hey, you know what? You are pretty funny. Let's do this. And so I think that's part of it, and I think this is why you're not all kind of puts, it relaxes you. Your walls a little bit. And I think that's the problem with people not even in dating today. It's like, if you don't meet this metric, if you're not 6'1", if you're not 160 pounds, if you don't have this, don't have a 6-figure job, you're going to take me to this restaurant for dinner. What are you, a loser? Everybody's got like this checklist of things you need. Let me tell you, man, just set a date.